Welcome, everybody. So glad you are here. Let me just double check my audio, MacBook audio input. Testing 1, 2. Okay, let's figure that out. This is going to go here. All right, that doesn't go here. Hey, what's up, guys? Just getting my audio set up. Really, really excited to talk to you about what I'm going to talk to you about today. Let's double check this audio. Boom, boom, boom. Audio input. There we go. Now we should have a nice, clean audio. Welcome, welcome. All right, let's see the chat. Awesome, 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 awesome. Let's make sure I got all my prompts available. I need this, I need that. I need my outline. Let's get rid of that notification. Let's put things on sleep so I am not interrupted. All right. Here we go. What's up, guys? And today is my birthday broadcast, and I wanted to do this word particularly on my birthday. So if you are here, love for you to chat. Hey, what's up, Zane? Good. Well, it is a great honor to spend my birthday with you. We're only going to have a few guys here. That's how things work. Thank you, Zane. So be proactive. You know, what I'm talking about today, guys, I mean from the bottom of my heart. If you've been following me, you know that I only talk from the bottom of my heart. This is my intellectual, professional, heartfelt opinion. And today we're going to talk about the most important word in recovery from any bad habit, any poor coping strategy, and a great life. The word that I'm going to share with you today is absolutely critical. It is mandatory. And for those of you who might not know, my name is Craig Pera. I'm the founder of the Mindful Habit System, a behavior change modality that I have the privilege to train to counselors, to therapists, and certainly a system that's been embraced by millions of men all over the world. Totally awesome. And the word we're talking about today is a really important part of that system. So if you just joined us today, we are talking about the most important word in recovery and in aggressively pursuing a great life. And the way that I want to do this broadcast today is I want to define the word, and I am going to keep you hanging for a few. If you want to guess in the chat what you might think that word is, I would love to hear your guesses. I'm going to first talk about what the word isn't. Then I'm going to talk, obviously, what the word is, why it's so important, and share with you exactly how that word is operationalized, or how you incorporate that word in very specific ways into your life. So first, we're going to talk about what the word is not. Now, again, if you just joined us, today we're talking about the most important word in recovery and in living a great life. If you have any idea of what that word might be, please let me know in the chat. But let's first talk about what it is not. It is not anxiety. The word we're talking about is the opposite of anxiety. It is the opposite of stress. Now, when we talk about anxiety and stress, brothers, we're talking about the physiology of fear. We're going to talk about that physiology and the horrible impact that it has on your mind, body, and spirit from a very scientific perspective. so you can make the right decisions for you. But the word we're talking about today is the opposite of anxiety, the opposite of stress, the opposite of imposter syndrome. It is the opposite of not being good enough. So think about this in the context of your relationships, right? The word we're talking about today is the opposite of getting defensive, the opposite of shutting down, getting angry, acting out. It is the opposite of stress physiology. And let me talk about that stress physiology for a second, because I want to talk about how important it is to living a great life. So let's talk a little bit about toxic stress physiology. And it is a great honor to have my mentee, Desiree, here. When I first met Desiree, she was 5 years old, and I was a idiot lawyer who got suckered into having to do some event by my boss. And here she is, and we're still close after all these years. Welcome, Desiree. So this is the most important word for you too. And this is, and guys, so the greater the trauma, and gals, the greater the trauma, the greater the mental illness, the more important this word is. And we're going to talk about that because toxic stress physiology is the physiology, the impact on the body of stress, anxiety, also known as the physiology of fear. This word's the opposite of that, okay? So this is the opposite of an activated stress response syndrome, which impacts the sympathetic nervous system. It is the opposite of the release of the stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. It is the opposite of consistently elevated levels of cortisol, which impacts the body's ability to respond to stress and affect various physiological processes. Because what we're talking about, guys, is right, everyone who's watching this is because there's a coping strategy. They are numbing, coping, and escaping. They are using some medium, video games, news, work, sex, porn, gambling, drinking, smoking, to numb, cope, and escape. Numb, cope, and escape from what? And so this chronic stress negatively impacts brain structure and function, the hippocampus involved in memory and learning, the prefrontal cortex involved in decision-making and self-regulation. So the science is there. I don't like getting lost in it because it's like, okay, we get it, but I just want to highlight for you, we're talking about the opposite of stress and anxiety, and this is what stress and anxiety is. This is the impact of stress and anxiety. It affects the brain. It suppresses the immune system, making the body more susceptible to infections and illness. It has cardiovascular effects. It has metabolic effects, impacting the risk of metabolic syndrome and type 2 diabetes and insulin resistance. Like, oh my God, listen, there's more. And wait, there's more. It has behavioral and psychological effects like addiction, like chronic numbing, coping, and escaping, coping strategies like sex, porn, overeating, smoking, excessive alcohol consumption, et cetera, et cetera. It has a development impact on our children or on ourselves when we were children. So the word that I'm talking about is the opposite of that. The word that I'm talking about that is the opposite of that. And the word is safety. Safe. The word is safe. And let me explain to you what I mean. Let me unpack that, just like, wait, what the hell is he talking about, right? That's not a masculine word. And when I first heard someone share a similar message to me, I would have these negative thoughts in my head like, oh, that's gay. What kind of pussy shit are we talking about? Right? Give me a break. I'm a grown man. What do you mean safety? So again, by framing it from it is being in control, it is being proactive, it is not being reactive. It is not falling into the habit cycle of numbing, coping, and escaping. It is the opposite, designed to counterbalance that physiology of fear that we just talked about and how bad that is from your body. Of course, you have to numb, cope, and escape. Your body, that's how it was trained to numb, cope, and escape. So, safety means you have distress tolerance skills, meaning you have tools to not get activated. You have tools to regulate your central nervous system, mindfulness, a trigger response plan. And we're going to talk about specifically where safety exists within the context of the mindful habit system. So you have some specifics, and this isn't just a platitude. So I am not radically ambiguous. At least I'm going to try, Andrew. And so, because whenever you're acting out, whenever you lose control, whenever you self-deprecate, whenever you experience stress or anxiety, you are unsafe. There is a fight, flight, or freeze response that activates in your body, and you respond the way that your central nervous system was trained to respond. So, for example, if your partner asks you a question and you get angry and defensive, unsafe. When your partner asks you a question and you shut down, unsafe. When you make a mistake and you fail, unsafe. So I'm telling you, men and women, the better able you are to create that sense of autonomy where you are proactive instead of reactive, when you're using your awareness of your triggers and your thoughts to create positive outcomes, then you're good. You're good. So let me just share with you a perspective. So what I want to talk about now is the systems, right? So here's a really important quote that took me a long time to realize is goals don't mean jack shit. Goals are important, but here's the quote. You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Your systems are the areas in your life that you need to focus on if you want to exercise self-control, manage stress and anxiety, counterbalance the mental health issues, the addiction issues, the family of origin trauma issues. It is the system that you incorporate into your life that enables you to be proactive instead of reactive. And that's ridiculously hard. That is to live a great life with all the temptations that we have, with all the pulls on our sanity and how challenging life is. Living a great life is hard. And to choose your life is hard. Choose your hard. So what I want to talk about now is safety in context of the systems, part of the mindful habit system. All right. So when someone works with us, they sign up, they want to get trained. No politics. No politics. So one more warning, guys. No, let's just get rid of it. There we go. Okay. So here are the elements of the system that I have found is necessary working with people now for 12 years, helping them create great lives and sustain great lives, two very different things. It's ridiculously hard. So I want to talk about safety. So risk management is the part of the system that has you proactive of when you are most vulnerable to lose control, blow a gasket, do something that's harmful. We're creatures of habit. In almost every case that I've worked on, 80% of the behavior is happening at 20% of the time. So, for example, if you act out when you're alone, well, you need a plan. So when you're alone and you get bored and you feel that automatic instantaneous trigger to numb, cope, and escape, right? The goal is for you to create safety in that moment, meaning where you do not have to numb, cope, and escape. And people think it's boredom, guys, and it's not. There's definitely a boredom component to it. There is definitely a habit component to it. However, we men hate, and women too. I work with a lot of guys, Desiree. We hate being alone. That's when the demons come, right? Why the need to numb, cope, and escape? So you need a red zone. Number two, self-care, right? If you're on your recovery journey and you're trying to beat an addiction back, then you need to prioritize self-care. If you don't prioritize self-care, you are not going to be able to exercise self-control. A lot of people think recovery is one thing and self-care is not. They are inexorably intertwined is the fancy word, meaning they cannot be separated. You need both. If you are not eating well, you're not going to be able to exercise self-control. If you are not sleeping well, there's no chance that you can exercise self-control. Stop beating yourself up. Give yourself some grace. If you're not hydrating, and listen, as much as this may suck, and here's a pill that you got to swallow, to be successful, you have to exercise. You have to practice mindfulness. You got to sit and concentrate. Focus on something, even if it's for 30 seconds. So all of that self-care will dramatically increase the chance that you're going to be able to create safety. If you're not taking care of yourself, there's no chance. It's not fair to hold yourself to that higher standard. How you treat yourself is a reflection of how you feel about yourself. So safety impacts risk management, our red zone. Safety impacts self-care. Safety impacts self-esteem. If you're not feeling good about yourself, how well do you think you're going to be able to not do the bad thing that you don't want to do? You can't. You can't. If you don't feel good about yourself, almost everybody listening here who is numbing, coping, and escaping is numbing, coping, and escaping because they don't feel good about themselves. In the overwhelming majority of cases that I work on with clients, is at the root is self-esteem. So if you don't feel good about yourself, you're never going to be successful managing your compulsive behavior. Your compulsive behavior is an escape from the reality that you don't feel good about yourself. So feeling safe, being comfortable in your skin, being able to get triggered and have these negative thoughts and pull yourself out of it. Ride that wave to a successful outcome where you have the tools to regulate your central nervous system so you are in control. And self-control is safety. Safety is responding to triggers. Safety is getting triggered, feeling your central nervous system react, needing to numb, cope, and escape with the alcohol, because it's medicine, right? Our bad habits are all medicine. Think about every one of your bad habits: eating, drinking, gambling, smoking, porn, whatever it is, like medicine, because it's doing something for you. So if you don't have those tools, and you can Google the word distress tolerance, right? There is a dialectical behavior therapy, DBT technique. Look up distress tolerance. If you know the mindful habit system, this is your trigger response plan. Tara Brach, Brach, has the RAIN test. There are a number of different frameworks that help you react in the moment. So self-control is safety. Now, direction and purpose, an important part of the mindful habit system. If you feel unsafe, you're probably not living in your purpose, but that's less relevant. Managing your parts, right? That addict part, as many of you know, doesn't go away. Any of you who've done a lot of therapy and hoped it would go away and are still here listening to this broadcast, right? That part doesn't go away. The reason that part doesn't go away is because life is ridiculously hard. You are going to experience pain. You are going to experience loss. And for those of you in the aggressive pursuit of a great life, you're going to have imposter syndrome. You're going to step onto a bigger stage and you're going to feel unsafe. You're going to step onto that bigger stage and you're going to be afraid. Like if you're not afraid, you're not doing it right. You're not growing. So we don't want to get to a place where we don't feel that way. We want a framework to manage those parts. And if you know nothing about parts and you've just heard the concept for the first time, the name of the book is No Bad Parts by Dr. Richard Schwartz. So connection, right? The opposite of addiction isn't sobriety, it's connection. And when you are connecting with somebody and you are vulnerable with that person, that's safe. You can open your heart to that person. You can share your failures with that person without a fear of being judged. Like I want to create a safe place for my mentee. And like my little kid, Desiree. So that connection is so important. And listen, life is hard. If you're like, oh my God, that takes a lot of things really to live and create and sustain a great life. It does. You can't just focus on one thing. But here's the good news. When you have the awareness, you only have to make 0.5%, 0.25%, little. And that continuous improvement. And instead of going for big change quickly, which is what a lot of people do at rock bottom, that's what I got to say. Hold up. We want this change to last. It's got to be sustainable. And part of that sustainability is understanding the impact of stress, anxiety, fear, right? So one invitation that I have for everybody here is to never use the word stressed or anxious again. Now, in polite company, I get it. Oh, I'm stressed, I'm anxious, but change the word. Change the word to I'm afraid. Because that's what's happening. It's the physiology of fear, fight, flight, or freeze. And when you say, I'm afraid, that almost forces you to fill in the blank and say, what are you afraid of? Is this a false expectation appearing real? Or is this something that I need to address? And if you need to address it, then you address it. That's risk management. That's being proactive. Of course, you're going to be challenged. Of course, life is going to punch you in the face. People die, pets die. People get in car accidents. People have financial setbacks. Life is ridiculously hard. And if you're someone who has those coping strategies, there's reasons why you have those coping strategies. Because your body needs those coping strategies to feel better. Our addict parts are actually trying to help. Our addict parts are actually trying to help. So when you think about what that addict part needs, does it need to be beaten? Does it need to be shamed? Does it need to be abused and pushed in, shamed into compliance? No. At the center of that addict part are those deep wounds, and that addict part needs to feel safe. The addict part needs to feel safe. The addict part needs to feel safe. And that, understanding that word embracing that word is critical because it forces you to acquire the skills, the mindfulness skills, the distress tolerance skills to counterbalance that fear. While we're social creatures, so many of us are afraid of connection. Chala in the chat talks about getting anxiety when speaking to certain people. It happens because inside you don't feel safe. Anxiety and stress is fear. I'm afraid. I'm afraid of embarrassing myself and saying the wrong thing. Why is that bad? Because you get rejected. Why is that bad? Because you get abandoned. Keep asking those why questions, layer after layer. What am I afraid of? What am I actually afraid of? I'm afraid they're going to judge me. Have they judged you? Are they bully friends? Are they nice, supportive friends? You're afraid going to get a haircut? I'm afraid. Afraid of what? Afraid of what? What's a real fear and what's a perceived fear? And so creating safety is critical to address these deeper underlying issues. All right, so that wraps up our broadcast today. I'm going to take some questions in the chat. So if you have any questions, let me know. Anxiety is a bitch. Fear is a bitch. Requires a lot of work. Go visit mindfulhabithelp.com. We have a core training self-study program that gives you access to a weekly webinar. In fact, in the chat or in the description of this, there's a 36% off coupon, and you get 30 days to try it for nothing. And this is for men struggling with compulsive sexual behavior. And, you need help, right? You need help. So get a therapist, find online support groups and build community, and commit yourself to a structured path that's going to help you address these deeper underlying issues, because I know I couldn't do it without help. Right? There were times in my life where I couldn't leave the house, where I'd come out a few blocks and I'd have to turn around and go back. I was so anxious. I was so afraid. So many mental health issues. So not or is I'm addicted and I need to stop. Let me give you the best possible answer. So the question is, I'm addicted and I need to stop. The answer sucks in a way, and I'm going to put it in the chat right now and review it really, really quick at a high level because I love that question. And I want to answer it as honestly and truthfully as I possibly can. If you are addicted, that means you have low self-esteem and poor coping strategies. You are likely living in a place where there is a lot of fear. Fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of not being good enough. If you're addicted, you are likely experiencing an increased level of stress and anxiety. And you are using those drugs or that substance or that behavior to numb, cope, and escape. So, to counterbalance that, you have to have risk management tools. You need a plan for the times when you're most likely to find yourself stumbling. You need to commit your life to bettering in a teeny tiny way self-care. You have to work on your self-esteem and address those deeper underlying issues that are getting in the way of you feeling good about yourself. The list goes on. You need tools to exercise self-control. And that's the good news. There are things that you can literally do, like actions in the moment that you can check out some of my other podcasts on the trigger response plan, or what I call in the moment mindfulness, or what's called distress tolerance in DBT, dialectical behavior therapy. So you can look up distress tolerance and you'll find some skills, but that's not alone, right? You also need direction. Where are you going? And why do you want to get there? You need purpose. Overwhelming data supports that people who have direction and purpose live better lives. But that's not alone. That's not enough, because despite that direction and purpose, you have these parts of you that awaken when you're down, when you're low, when you have imposter syndrome, when you're experiencing fear. So you need to manage that too. And that's parts management. And that's the book, Altogether You. Altogether You is one book. The other one is No Bad Parts by Dr. Richard Schwartz. And everybody, make sure you see the Pixar movie Inside Out 2, because that movie is based upon the modular mind theory, which recognizes that we have inside us our different parts. So you got to learn to manage those different parts. Those different parts, like the addict part that's trying to help make things better. You need to understand that. You need connection in community. The opposite of addiction isn't sobriety, it's connection. The data is overwhelming. You need accountability. There's likely no area in your professional life where someone says, we don't have to worry about accountability. No, it'll work itself out. We don't have to worry about the taxes. We don't have to worry about accounts receivable. We don't have to worry about collecting. We don't have to, just no, of course not. You need accountability, and anybody that works for you needs accountability. What's true external is often true internal. So you need accountability, right? Not just that connection, you need accountability. You need connection. And after accountability, faith and spirituality. And whether what that means to you is going to mean different things to different people, again, overwhelming data supports that people who are strong in their faith, strong in their spirituality, live better lives. And I'd argue that that's not enough. You also need to live a life where you have a belief system where your cup is half full. Doesn't mean you're happy all the time. Doesn't mean your life doesn't suck sometimes. Your life can suck sometimes and your cup can still be half full. Again, another overwhelming source of data and evidence that supports how important it is to be grateful, to live and experience gratitude. So how do you beat an addiction? That's how. All right, let's see what else here. What about smoking weed? I love it so much, but it makes me lazy and selfish. So, I work with a lot of guys who've experienced a lot of trauma, and the weed is medicine. Look at everything that you're putting in your body. Food is medicine. Weed is medicine. What you're putting in your eyes, what you're putting in your ears, what you're putting in your mouth, right, is medicine. And all medicines, sugar, for example, there's a cost, right? There's always side effects. So what can you do to counterbalance those side effects? Some guys have moved to edibles so they don't cause the damage on the lungs. Some guys have gone 50-50 with the weed and the THC and the CBD. So they fortunately live in states where it's legal, so they can find the right strain, find the right oil, find the right tincture that helps them regulate a central nervous system. That if it wasn't for this medicine, you might be using other medicines prescribed by a doctor, which have worse symptoms. So I get value thinking about these different things as medicine. Everything I put in my body, food is medicine. It's a reflection of how I feel about myself. And that perspective really helped me. Oh, you're welcome, Not. All right. Any questions before we wrap up today? Thank you for joining me on my birthday. I love helping people, and it's great to connect with different people at different times and, different parts of their lives. And I'm so honored and so blessed to, hopefully be able to provide you with some support. And that's the good news. There is hope. Right? There are lots of things that you can do to live your best life. And what's so important is for you to find what works best for you. For me, many of my clients have tried therapy and they've gotten value. They've tried meetings and they've gotten value, but they need something else. And that's essentially what the mindful habit is. The mindful habit system is a program designed to supplement and in some cases replace traditional therapy and meetings to empower men and women to create a great life and to sustain a great life. And Desiree, I'm going to give you access to my bad habit program, no charge. I'm going to let you in and then we can talk about it and when we have our, one-on-one chat. So I'm excited to share that with you. Oh, Galen's in the chat. Thank you, Galen. So cool for you guys checking in. All right, last check-in. Any questions? Nope, I think it's time to go. I'm waiting. Someone's waiting to jump on the phone with me. Love you guys. Love you gals. Life is too short to suck. Please remember that. It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to. There's things you can do that help you die a little teeny tiny. Right? Go for the big changes, but I like to be the sustainability guy. I like people to look back and say, okay, yeah, Craig didn't go for the the quick big, those big firework moments. I like them, but they fade. So if you make a little progress in these areas and celebrate that progress, your life will change. Google Kaizen goal setting, Kaizen.